Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar on 10 steps to help you prepare for every presentation. It's kind of like a checklist process, and there's other steps that you may think of that you can include as well, but these are 10 steps and they're broad steps. As we move through the webinar, interestingly, each of these 10 steps is an individual webinar in its own right. So as I go through these very quickly in the half-hour webinar, please think if you would like to know more on any of those individual steps, and then I can drill down and do a webinar just on that particular step if it's of value to you. So your feedback will help me choose what to run future webinars on. So Peter G is my name, and welcome to the webinar. A little bit of how to participate. I know some of you have been on these webinars before, some of you are first timers. Ask questions as we go. There's a little dialogue box off to the side, the red arrow. You can click that and type your question in any time. Take notes, but I think it's important to apply and to think about the information. So think of a presentation you've done previously, or you've got one coming up. How well are you covered with these 10 steps? And that way you're applying the knowledge and the learning that I'm giving you to your own unique situation. As I said while I was chatting to some of you, I do record my webinars. So if I move too quickly and you have additional questions, email me after today. You could also ask for a link to the recording of the webinar and you can review it in your own time. The first question, think of a presentation that's coming up. What could possibly go wrong? Think of everything, scan the environment. What could possibly go wrong with your presentation? And do you have a contingency plan? Do you have a backup plan? Do you have a what if? What if I get twice as many people in the room as I expected? What if only half the number turn up? What if the speaker before me speaks into my time and I've only got 20 minutes instead of 30 minutes? What if? Ask yourself all the things. What if the power goes out midway through your presentation? And have your backup, your contingency plan ready. So these are the 10 steps. As I said, I'm going to go through them quickly. Each of them is a webinar in their own right. And please do ask questions as we go. The first one is, have you got your nerves under control? One of the things you need to have at your fingertips is those quick relaxation techniques, whether they're deep breathing, shoulder shrugs, visualization, whether you do yoga or meditation. All of a sudden there's 100 people in the room and you're expecting to speak to 20 or 30 and you notice your heart almost stops breathing. What's the quick relax you've got? I mean, life's busy, life's stressful. Sometimes I get anxious outside of public speaking and I just need to stop and do some deep breathing. Are you prepared for anything? As I mentioned in my introduction, that positive mindset. It was Henry Ford who said, whether you think you can or whether you think you cannot, you're probably right. So it's about visualizing and thinking about your success, your closing statements. And nerves, do you understand your nerves? They're not meant to go away. And I talk about Ringo Starr, the drummer for the Beatles. His nickname is Pukey in the Sky with Diamonds. And simply Ringo Starr goes to the bathroom and vomits before every performance, before every gig. So he's so nervous, he has so much stage fright that he goes and vomits. Does that detract from his performance? No, it's just that he gets nervous. Sally Pearson, the gold medal, 2012 London gold medal winner at the Olympics, was asked if she was nervous before the race. And she said, yes, of course I'm nervous. She's glad to have nerves. If she wasn't nervous, she wouldn't be ready to race. So it's about understanding that nerves are probably a part of public speaking. And I love the quote from Mark Twain. And Mark Twain said, there's two kinds of speakers in the world, those that are nervous and those that are liars. So what he means is everyone's nervous. So understand your role of nerves will help you before every presentation. So that's just check, do a scan. How are you feeling? 1 hour before the presentation, 5 minutes, and now you're being introduced. What can you do to get your nerves under control? Have you done the right level of preparation? What do I mean? Know your audience. Who's in the room? What's their problem? What's their vision? What's their value? You need to think of yourself as the aspirin for the headache that the people in the room have. What headache have they got? You may need to walk in their footsteps, in their shoes, to get a really good understanding. If you know your audience, you can be culturally aware. You can acknowledge the traditional landowners. I mentioned in my introduction, I was in Bendigo, so that's the Dja Dja Wurrung people. And when I went to Swan Hill, it's the Wamba Wamba people. And when I was speaking at Echuca, it's the Yorta Yorta people. Know your audience, know who's in the room. Are they going to be angry or are they going to be on your side? Know your venue. One of the mistakes people make is they go to the venue for the first time as they're about to present. You need to get there early. Do you need a microphone? Will your voice reach the back? How many people are going to be in the room? Is there steps you need to step up? Is the lighting even all across the front? Or if you stand in one corner, you're going to be in the dark and people will lose you. I want you to own your venue. What time can you get there to set up? My minimum is an hour. So who's the organizer? Can I get to that conference room, that training room, that facilitation room 1 hour before my lecture, my keynote, or my presentation starts? That's a requirement. You want me to come to your place to work? You want me to be a conference speaker? 1 hour minimum for me so that I can walk around, set up, know the venue so I can own the space. So here's some tough love for you. You are the custodian of the experience that the audience has at your presentation. If they're too cold, if they're too hot, if the seats are uncomfortable, if they can't hear you, you are the custodian of that experience. And you might say, but that's not my fault. But the audience associates it with you. So know your venue, know your content. Why would you present without knowing your content? But I want you to take it to the next level. Plug and play. 10 people turn up, 50 people turn up. You're asked to speak for an hour and you lose 20 minutes because of the speaker before you. You're asked to speak for half an hour, the speaker before you doesn't turn up, now you're speaking for an hour. So can you stretch? Can you change? Can you adapt? Power goes out, can you still deliver? The fire alarm goes off, smoke detector, and you're outside in the muster point for 2 hours while the fire brigade works out what's going on inside. There's no fire, it's just a false alarm. Can you deliver outside? People have invested time, they've invested money. Do the right level of preparation. And there's that wonderful saying, prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. Have you got a simple structure? I love to use a mind map. 30 seconds, strong opening. Rule of primacy, first 30-second matters. Now close, last 30 seconds. Rule of recency, end strong. Keep it simple, 3 points. People remember threes, they don't remember 4, 5, 6, or 7. Clarity of your core message. And why is it relevant to the audience? If the audience don't care, if you're not the aspirin to a problem or a solution to what the audience is worrying about, why is it relevant to the audience? Why are you doing that presentation? So it's around clarity of a simple structure and a mind map so that you don't have to read your notes. What's your core message? Are you clear on what you want people to walk away with? So what do I mean by that? Let's say you've done a presentation and I was in your audience. And we'll go to Sydney. And 6 months later, I bump into you in the Pitt Street Mall. So I come running up and I say, wow, Andrew, I really enjoyed that presentation. I What do you want me to remember? Make sure you have clarity of your core message, and it's also known as clarity of purpose. Use it or confuse it. If the audience walks out with different messages, then you haven't nailed your core message. Really important that you get on message. And if I can only remember one thing in 6 months' time, what would that be? And why does it matter to me, the audience member? If it doesn't matter to the audience, then you're probably a stand-up comedian or some other kind of entertainer. You really need to deliver content, a core message that has benefit to the audience. Benefit in that it relieves pain, solves a problem, or if you want to go to the other side, helps them reach their goals, reach their target, or reach their key performance indicators. Make things easier for them or remove a problem from their life. What is your core message? So I'm just going to pause for a moment. Are there any questions? So I've got a question. How do you find out your core message? I generally ask people to do two little exercises. The first exercise is answer this question. What do I want them to remember? And not 3 or 4 or 5 things. So what one big overarching thing do I want them to remember? And the second exercise, ask yourself this question. Why does that matter to the audience? Or why does the audience care about what I'm telling them? And that's where you've got to look at the benefits that you're giving the audience. When you merge those two things, what it is I want them to remember and why it's important, then you have clarity around your core purpose, your core message. Okay. Have you got the right attitude? So you can do all the preparation, know your message off by heart, go to the room and come on board with the wrong attitude. So you must be passionate. It's around being authentic and genuine. If you don't like what you're talking about, then the audience will understand that really this is not something you're that interested in. And why would they buy a message that you don't believe in yourself? So when you get before an audience, try and make it that first date mentality. Try and make them special. You can also call it the 1%ers. What 1% can you do that'll just make it special for the audience? People ask me, why do I do free webinars? Why do I give away my content via webinars? And most of you have come to my workshops. I'm looking at those people. Most of you are potential clients or have been clients. So this is the little bit extra that I give to people that have contacted me, people that follow my newsletter, and people I coach or train in the public speaking presentation skills space. The webinars are just a little bit extra for you guys. And the attitude must show. You must ooze that passion, that authenticity. And one thing or one metaphor that I like to leave you with to try and help you capture the attitude, and that is right now, so at 9:15 West Australian time, there's no place I would rather be in the whole world than sitting before you guys sharing my passion, my knowledge, so that you can take your speaking to another level. When you get before a group of people, that attitude must show. Right now, you are really pleased to be before that group. Maybe it's a group of high school kids. Maybe it's a group of people who don't want to be there. But you as the speaker or the trainer or the presenter or the facilitator must have that attitude that's not only positive, but clearly demonstrates you want to be there. There's no place on this planet that I'd rather be than before that audience right now. What's your body saying about you? There's the 5 and second rule. So this is via webinar, so my body's not saying much about me at all. My voice, I am trying to use pause as opposed to filler words, ums, ahs, you know, like you should have been there, etc., etc. I use pause, but women have generally formed an opinion of someone within 5 seconds of laying eyes on that person. Men take 7 seconds, and I'm not sure whether that 7 seconds is because we're a little bit slower in assimilating the information, or we give people an extra 2-second chance. And I suspect that with men, it's just we're a little bit slower. What I'm saying is your first impressions count, and as a speaker before a group of people, your body language really does matter. And yeah, thanks, Wendy. I think it is the processing speed of the male brain versus the female brain. And it's not that we're judging people by their cover or a book by its cover. It's just one of those things. We see someone, are they dressed appropriate for the occasion, which is really important. And that's part of your preparation. What level should you dress at? If you come in a tuxedo, suit and tie, and everyone else is just in jeans and casual shirts, you're going to be overdressed and look a little bit silly. If you're speaking to a group of lawyers and chartered accountants and you come in just casual, you will look underdressed. That's part of your preparation, by the way. Your body language, what your hands are doing, is very important also. They can be distracting, they can dilute your presentation. This is a one-day workshop in its own right. In fact, I do run a workshop on the power of body language. Are you ready to get before that audience? Your first impressions count. Are you ready for your Q&A session? And I'll go straight down to the bottom. Your Q&A can make or break you. So let's say you've done a wonderful presentation and then you get difficult questions, left field questions, angry people, you struggle to answer the questions, and then everybody leaves the room. Understand that that Q&A session is the most recent thing that the audience has heard, and your credibility could go down the tube as you do a bad Q&A session, or as you're unable to answer the questions, your credibility will suffer. So things to think about in terms of who's in the room. Are they with you or are they against you? Are you speaking on something contentious? What question do you not want to be asked? What question, if you're asked that, will make you feel uncomfortable? What you need to do is you need to prepare an answer for those difficult questions. It's about scanning the environment and anticipating some of those questions. If you can't answer a question, and it's okay not to answer a question or not have the knowledge, especially if it's technical or quite difficult. Our politicians take questions on notice. But if you know where to find out and you get back to everyone, then people will be quite happy with that. It's a really good question. I don't have the answer at the moment. Let me find out and I'll get back to you all. I've got all your email addresses. I'll send you Wendy's question and I'll send you the answer within 48 hours. Our politicians take questions on notice in all our state parliaments and federal parliaments. I'll take that on notice and they'll have 72 hours, not 48, 72 hours to find out and get back to Parliament and answer the question. And prepare for difficult questions. Are you ready for your Q&A? Or are you going to risk being shot down in flames by some contentious questions or outside of scope questions that may leave you looking a little bit vulnerable and a little bit less than credible? Really important to prepare for an effective Q&A session, which is a good segue to pause. Other questions, other comments? I run a one-day workshop on thinking and speaking off the cuff. And of course, your Q&A session is that impromptu off the cuff speaking. And there's a whole section on how to prepare for your Q&A. Any advantage to having questions during the presentation? And thanks, Wendy. So there's two ways you can do it. You can take questions as you go. So please interrupt me as I am today. Take a question anytime. Or you can say, please, can everybody hold their questions to the end? Really, it depends on your length of time. If you've got a 20, 30-minute presentation, if you have questions as you go, you may not get through your content. When you run maybe an hour, or like I do half-day or one-day workshops, I take questions as we go. And what I find the benefit is that as I get towards the end of the workshop, I've sometimes covered some of the stuff, some of the content in more detail earlier on through the Q&A, and it enables me to be flexible with my presentation. I would not take questions during your presentation in a tight 20 to 30-minute session. You may get taken off track, someone may hijack the agenda, and you may not have time to deliver your content. In doing that, please set the rules for your Q&A up front. So part of your introduction, grab attention, introduce yourself, and say, look, I'm going to take questions for 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the session. Please, I need all of you to hold your questions till then, or else I'm not going to get through my content. Then when someone asks a question midway through, you can shut them down respectfully because you've already got the buy-in and the agreement of the group around the rules you've set for Q&A. Look, if you don't mind, can you just hold that question towards the end? We did agree up front that I wouldn't take questions until the last 10 minutes. So thank you. And then you move on. Great question. Moving on. 3 steps to go. Are you using the platform effectively? And this is about knowing your room, but are you aware standing behind a lectern is not the strongest position to create an adult learning environment, to engage the audience? So get out from behind the lectern. Where is the lectern? Left, right, or in the middle? Use the platform correctly. Claim your space as a speaker. Don't do a cat on a hot tin roof and just wander from left to right aimlessly. It's about using the platform for purpose. Moving forward to make a strong point. Stepping back a little bit when you are dealing with a difficult question, just to dilute the importance. Once again, this is the body language and the nonverbal communication workshop. Are there dark spots in the platform? Or are there spotlights evenly lit across the whole stage so you can use it? This is about knowing your venue as well. What is the platform like? Do you need a microphone? What if there's a microphone anchored in the lectern and you can't leave the lectern? Find out beforehand. This is your preparation. This is your checklist. Ask, can I have a lapel microphone? So I'm presenting in Perth at Link West, 27th of August, as a keynote speaker. And they've asked me, do I want a lapel microphone? There is a microphone in the lectern. Do I want a lapel microphone? My answer is yes, because I use the platform. There's a whole raft of things you can do around platform mechanics and using the space effectively to enhance your presentation. Your audio visual, your PowerPoint slides, are you ready to go? Have you got a backup if the power goes out? No bullet points, please. You may have noticed today I have used no bullet points in my PowerPoint slides. You are looking at a PowerPoint presentation. Bullet points are shooting your audience to death one slide at a time. Eliminate the noise. So this is the fancy transitions, the bells, the whistles, the slides that go round and round and then drop. That is really noisy. Other noise includes having your website on every page. every page. At the bottom you see it, www dot, and page number 9 of 56. And over here, the corporate logo on every slide. All of that stuff is background noise. All of it is background noise. So it's important that your slides have an image, a graph, a chart, some sort of model like I'm showing you that helps to illustrate rather than is your teleprompter from which you read. Make the slides pop, so they should pop out. People should see what you're talking about. This is about graphs, photos, models, cartoons. Your PowerPoint slides are an audio-visual aid to help the audience get your message. They're not your teleprompter. Black your slides in between. So when you're having a discussion, I could do that on a webinar, but you need that visual input. That's how webinars work. So let me show you. I'm going to hit the B button on my keypad. Whoops, I'm going to hit the B button on my keypad. You're now looking at a black screen. So if I was live in front of you, you'd be looking at me. Your eyes are now no longer on the screen. You're looking at me, and now I can talk about some deeper points. We can really have the heartfelt discussions. I hit B again, and the slide comes back. And if PowerPoint goes out, or even if it doesn't go out, I still use flip charts and whiteboards, or bring some props. I bring my favorite public speaking books, about 4 or 5 books, from the introductory to the really advanced books, so that people can have a look at what books I recommend. And sometimes I'll bring up a book and hold it up as a prop just to illustrate a point. Step 10, how are you going to get feedback? What's your feedback loop? Feedback is the food of champions. Every time you speak, get feedback from the audience. If you think you've done a really good job, Wendy, in fact, you've nailed it, and the audience thinks you've sucked, you've sucked. If you think you've done a disastrous job, your mind's gone blank, you've mucked up your words, and the audience loved you, then you've nailed it. Public speaking is not about you. It's about your impact on the audience. So how do you get feedback? Make sure that it's specific. So saying to someone that was a good job or that was a bad job is no good. Specific means I noticed that you used quite a few ums while speaking, and if you were to eliminate the ums, I think you'd be more effective. Needs to be honest, needs to be immediate. So no point giving me feedback on this webinar in 6 months' time, because I will not be able to remember what I've done and what I have not done. Give me feedback via email straight away, within 24 hours, please. So where do you get feedback? Use an audience member. In terms of your body language, or in terms of your nonverbal, you can use a mirror to practice. What if you're too embarrassed to ask? In terms of asking people, then I would choose someone who's a trusted colleague or a trusted friend, or someone who arrived early. So when I do with the big groups, when I present with the big groups, there's always those 1 or 2 people that arrive 10, 15 minutes early. I shake hands, I introduce myself, I connect with them, and then I ask them if they will give me feedback. If you don't want to ask someone, then video record yourself. Give someone your smartphone. It's important to understand is that if you're embarrassed, then that becomes your ego state. You're worried about what people think about you, and you're worried whether you've done a good job or not. And that's really irrelevant, what you think about yourself. The relevance is, what does the audience think about you? And until you find out the reality from the audience's perspective, you really don't know how well, how effective you're doing. And what I find is that most people's self-opinion, self-evaluation is too harsh, and they focus on their nervous voice, their shaky hands, their face goes red, and then when you ask the audience says, I didn't see any of that. It was really interesting. The important thing is if you give them a message, an action to walk away with, then the audience will be really happy. So is the immediate feedback in addition to feedback from them on the day? For a workshop, not sure what you mean, Wendy. Are you talking about the feedback form that you hand out? Yeah, I don't use feedback forms. I send an email and I ask open questions. What did you like? What went well? And the second question is, what can you do different? What can I do differently? What can I change? What could I do that would make that a better workshop for you guys? So just wrapping up, these are the 10 steps. Have you got your nerves under control? Have you done the right level of preparation? The 6 Ps, prior preparation prevents piss poor for performance. Is your speech set out in a simple structure? Are you clear on your core message? Got the right attitude? What's your body saying about you? Ready for Q&A? Difficult Q&A. Are you using the platform? Get away from the lectern. Make sure your PowerPoint slides pop. Don't do death by bullet points. And how you're going to get feedback. Feedback is the food of champions. Feedback is how you grow. Feedback is how you learn. Upcoming workshops. These are on my website. You know how to get to them. I'd really love to get some more people in Melbourne on the 22nd and 23rd of October. I've got a Feel the Fear workshop in Perth on the 15th of October. Karatha's coming up, 24th and 25th. 25th is full, difficult conversations. 24th, winning presentations. Got any colleagues, friends in Karatha, then by all means invite them. Next webinar, the art of telling your business story. So I'm a great believer in telling stories, and people get worried about just telling stories. So it's the business story. You know how to register for my webinar. Just go to my website and you'll click the webinar. There'll be more webinars in September. I run 2 webinars per month. Am I running any workshops in Sydney? I've got a couple of workshops coming up, but they're in-house. So I haven't taken the plunge in advertising, booking a room and doing an open workshop. If I had enough people in Sydney, I would definitely run an open workshop. I've done it in the past, but I find it quite hard to get the message out and fill the room with 8 to 10 people in Sydney. So if you know networks or if you know how I can get the message out, quite happy to book a room. I know where to get a room and we'll put a date together. So email me and we can work on Sydney later on. Any last questions?